Work is done, it's time for some fun. This is the good part. Let's go! How's it going, everyone? My name's Andrew, and this is Get to the Endgame, where I'm going to run you through every single Marvel movie leading up to Avengers Endgame at the end of the month. Today, we're on to Thor: The Dark World. The second movie in the Thor trilogy. This movie is directed by Alan Taylor, who's known for his work in television. He's directed many episodes of Game of Thrones, an episode of Lost, and some Mad Men episodes. So this is his first big screen movie. With a budget of $170 million, it ended up grossing over $640 million, which is still a nice little bit, but nowhere near the heights that Avengers and Iron Man 3 did before it. But without further ado, let's run you through the plot. This movie opens up with Odin telling another story. This is the story of the Asgardians fighting off the Dark Elves for the power of the Ether, an all-powerful stone that can take over and control worlds. Luckily, the Asgardians are able to fight off the Dark Elves, but not before their leader, Malekith, and his right-hand man, Allgrim, are able to escape. The Asgardians wanting to hide away this power, bury it deep underground in a vault, never to be seen again. We then cut forward to modern times, and we see that Loki is back on Asgard in prison, and he is being sentenced to a life in prison by none other than his father, Odin. We then cut over to Thor, who's on a different world, Vanaheim. It is here he is helping them fight off some stone golems. With the golems defeated, Thor has now properly repaired the relationship between all the different worlds and realms that was very much hurt in the end of the first movie. We then cut down to Earth and we see Jane Foster, Natalie Portman from the first movie. She is on a date here with a different man since Thor hasn't been around in quite a long time, going against his word that he would be back. This date is quickly interrupted though by Darcy, her intern. She tells Jane that there is a weird anomaly happening in downtown London and she has to come check it out. Jane goes over with Darcy and they find that these portals are opening that are defying the laws of physics and causing objects to phase through them and appear in random spots. Jane then walks through one of these portals. It is here that she ends up deep underground on the Dark Elf's world, and she finds the Ether. She goes and touches the vault that's sealed and immediately she's inflicted with this red power that causes her to go flying back out of the portal and back to Earth. Once there, Darcy tells her that she was gone for 5 hours, even though it seemed like 3 minutes. When all this weird stuff is happening, the police show up, and they go to capture Jane, but as soon as they get near her, the Ether surges out of her and attacks them. Luckily, Thor shows up and is able to grab her and take her up to Asgard for safety. Once in Asgard, against Odin's will, the Asgardians do some experiments on Jane to figure out what's wrong with her, and they discover that it is in fact the Ether has infected her body. Upon feeling the effects of this, Malekith, the Dark Elf leader, wakes up from his long slumber and knows that he has to go to Asgard to fight to get the Ether back. He sends his right-hand man Allgrim, now turned into a being called Curse, to go and attack Asgard. Curse goes in and blows up Asgard and kills many, many soldiers, including none other than Thor's mother, Frigga. Defeated by this, Odin says that Jane Foster must be trapped on Asgard forever. Thor, not happy with this response, decides to go over to his brother, none other than Loki, and say, Loki, I know you have a secret way to get down to Earth without people knowing. We have to do that. Loki agrees to help. So Loki and Thor, with Jane Foster, sneak out to go to Earth, but the only way to get there is going through the Dark Elf's world. Once in the Dark Elf's world, Malekith is there, and is able to extract the Ether from Jane Foster to use for his own power. He then promptly kills Loki. Thor, furious, will say that he will avenge Loki's death, and takes Jane Foster, and they run back off to Earth. Malekith, now infected with the Ether, is more powerful than ever. Back down on Earth, Jane and Thor meet up with Eric Selvig and Darcy, the astrophysicist team from the first movie. It is here Eric tells him that the convergence is about to happen. This is when all 9 realms line up at once, and portals open up between them to easily transport between them. They theorize that what Malekith is trying to do is release the Ether throughout all 9 realms at once, destroying all the worlds. So they come up with a plan to attack him. They know that the convergence is going to happen in Greenwich, London. So they go to London, and sure enough, Malekith is there ready to enact his plan. Thanks to some tech designed by Eric Selvig, they are able to promptly remove the Ether from Malekith, and then they fight him. It's a massive battle between Thor and Malekith, hopping between worlds. Luckily, they are able to defeat Malekith by having him being crushed by his own ship. It is then that we go back to see Asgard. It is here that Thor is being told by Odin that he will make an excellent king. Thor once again refuses the kingship, saying that he doesn't want that. As Thor is leaving the throne room, we see that Odin is in fact Loki, and it was all a ruse, and that Loki is alive the whole time. We do not know Odin's whereabouts. We then cut to a post-credit scene. It is here that we see that some of the Warriors 3 have taken the ether and given it to an alien called the Collector, played by Benicio del Toro. They say that it is not safe for 2 Infinity Stones to be in Asgard. Since the Tesseract, one of them, is already in Asgard, they give the other to the Collector. He will keep it for safekeeping. And then, in our second post-credit scene, the first that we've had so far, we see that Thor is reunited with Jane Foster back on Earth. End of movie. Okay, so now that we've gotten through the whole plot of the movie, I'm going to tell you what you need to know from Thor the Dark World for Avengers Endgame. And there's really only one main thing that's introduced here that you need to know, and that is all about the Ether. The Ether is the second Infinity Stone that we've seen so far, right after the Space Stone, aka the Tesseract from the Avengers movies. And also, at the end of the movie, the Ether is now with the Collector, and that's Benicio del Toro. That is where they've decided to keep it safekeeping, because they don't want the Infinity Stones kept on the same planet, because then someone could get them very easily. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Thanos in the future. But yeah, that's it. That is the main thing you need to know for Avengers Endgame from Thor the Dark World. Now let's go on ahead and rank Thor in our list of Marvel movies. So, where does this movie rank in the grand scheme of things? Well, this movie is really boring. If I had the choice, I wouldn't watch this one again. I wouldn't recommend this one. It's not a bad movie, it's just nothing happens. There's a lot of talking. The villain, Malekith, is just not interesting. You just don't care. The fight scenes aren't that exhilarating. Thor doesn't reach the heights that he did in Avengers, and I know he gets much funnier and more entertaining to watch going forward. And Loki is even kind of muted in this film. So without further ado, this one's going to go right at the bottom. Thor the Dark World is definitively the worst movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And having seen all the movies ahead of this at least once, I know that nothing gets worse than this. So unfortunately, Thor the Dark World is the low point of the series, but that means it can only go up from here. And we'll see exactly how far up it goes from here when we tune to our next episode, which is Captain America, the Winter Soldier. One of my personal favorites. How high will it go? You'll have to tune in and watch. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please subscribe to the channel below and click that like button for me. That'd be awesome. Until then, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.